Welcome, Don. Well, the organization you created, which is called Agape International Mission, we refer to it as AIM. You do things a little differently when it comes to how you fight human trafficking, and I'd like to just hear, because you guys are on the ground. I mean, this has been your life in Cambodia and now moving into Belize. But talk a little bit about your philosophy on how you've come about creatively trying to attack this problem.
Well, I'd like to say we had this vision, and we fulfilled, we knew exactly what we were going to do, but it didn't work out that way. We came with the idea there was a need for aftercare. So we said, we're going to build an aftercare home, and we want to build one that takes a girl from more being a survivor to thriving. So we did that, and we think, wow, this is working. They've experienced the love of Christ, they're healed, but what now? They can't keep staying with us. So we think, well, we have to reintegrate them in a healthy way. And that reintegration was going to require that, for it to be healthy, that they continue to be connected to a family, right? That they condition and get unconditional love and find a purpose beyond themselves. And in Cambodia, that's not a very easy thing to do. There's not churches. And so what we have, when a girl's reintegrated, we have a trained mentorer and discipler that will stay with her the rest of her life, if that's what it takes. Well, then that's going well, but we realize, wow, we keep getting more and more girls, right? We can't keep up. We've got to do something about prevention. And there's a city in Cambodia called Svai Pak that was the epicenter for trafficking. And we did some outreach there, and it really came to us as, this evil requires heart transformation. And Jesus visits Svai Pak. And we just said, well, he needs to move there. So we planted a church in the middle of this hell. It was, when we first moved there, my wife couldn't walk down the street by herself because of the death threats that would come against her. But over time, as we reached down in the community to build relationships where people could experience the love of Christ. And we did it through education. We opened a school for about 1,500. But one thing that was really different is you're not reaching the pimps, the traffickers, right? The users of girls. And we thought, how can we connect with them? What can we offer them? Because none of the programs we had would reach them. And
this is amazing to me. So you weren't just saying we're going to help the girls who've been victims of this injustice, but we're going to take on this mission of trying to reach the pimps. We're going to try to rehabilitate and work with the actual traffickers. How was that met in the community, and how did you get creative about how you do it?
Well, what we realized is there was one thing that all those men liked: kickboxing. And that was like an honorable thing in Cambodia. We were able to find a Christian kickboxing coach who was a national champion at one time. That's how God provided all along. And we started this gym. And it was in this little tiny space. And over time, 22 bad guys became good guys.
No way.
Became professional kickboxers on TV, and were able to use their influence to influence other men to stop being those bad guys. We actually had 3 national champions out of that little gym.
Amazing.
And next year in the Asian Games, one of our guys is going to be representing Cambodia.
Wow. I love the creativity. Isn't that awesome? Just going, look, what is it going to take? Yeah, what is it going to take? That takes like a holy imagination to just go, how are we going to serve a need that they have so we can build relationships so they can be introduced to really get freedom. Amazing story. Now, as you guys think about this, you do more than just the economic development and more than just education. I think it's through this commitment to relationship, discipleship, staying with people over the long haul, where you don't always see these quick successes. It's more of a long journey and a long story. But why have you been committed to that type of process?
Well, that economic development, education, law enforcement, all good things. But the truth, they've never defeated evil anywhere. And until these people, whatever side they're on, can experience the love of Christ, for that transformation to begin, for them to even be curious about Jesus. And what we've seen, just what you said, sometimes people want a quick solution to something like trafficking, and there is no quick solution. It's one heart at a time. And what we've seen is when people experience that love, one of the crazy things that happened is we've had somebody come over to make a film about the gym. And so they interviewed 22 guys, and this was a secular company. And they had said, like, they can't wait to get the reason these guys are at the gym and why they like it. All 22 guys interviewed individually said, it's the first place I was ever loved.
Wow.
And these are the worst of the worst, these guys.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So for you, as you've just gone through this journey with your wife, I mean, what have you learned in like trusting God, your relationship with God, as you've tried to just show up in the place where you felt the burden, where you saw the injustice, and you just showed up with what you had to offer? What has that done for you guys, and what can we learn, and what would you say to a group of leaders that oftentimes are confronted with similar problems but don't always know what to do or how they're going to figure out the solution 15 years from now? I know for you guys, you didn't know this was going to be the journey. You just kind of one day at a time stepped into it. So what was it about your faith that helped you to do that?
Well, I think that the most important thing is see a need, fill it, right? And being able to persevere. When people would ask us, how can you pray for us or for the people? And we say, persevering love, because that was the only thing. So if God's love would flow through us, we would see transformation, not just of bad guys or victims, but of a whole community. If you could go to Swipak today where Bridget couldn't walk down the street without being threatened, kids rollerblade on the main street of Swipak today. It's a community that's thriving, and it's not in the school and economic development. Like, we have employment centers for girls as they come through our program. All those things are good, but again, it's the love that came through them. It's even, like, I think one of the unique things about us, I think we're the only Christian ministry in the world that has a SWAT team. We have our own SWAT team that the government has approved, and it's crazy. We were living in Swipak, right? So we were getting intel because that was the big part of trafficking, but rescues weren't happening. And we said one day we need to have a SWAT team, and crazy enough, the government approved it, and in 7 years they've rescued over 1,500 girls and put 600 bad guys in prison.
Well, this theme of love your enemies, I mean, the thought of this kickboxing gym and traffickers and pimps, and then the girls that you've rescued, I mean, have you seen forgiveness play a part in this journey amongst that community?
Incredible forgiveness, and even against the perpetrators. I'm going to give you a really short story, but 15 years ago, 5 girls came to our aftercare center. When rescued, they said it was the worst, the federal agent said it was the worst case of child abuse they'd ever seen. These girls, 8 to 12 years old, not speaking the language, came to the United States to testify against this guy who was extradited. Crazy to see these little girls walking into a courtroom packed with people. The guy that abused them 15 feet from them, staring at them, and girls on the stands for up to 3 hours. After the trial, he was convicted on all charges and sentenced to 220 years in prison. And that's a pretty good story by itself, right? But there was a technicality in the law, and last year he was granted a retrial over a small technicality, and these girls were all asked to come back. And so they bravely came back to relive the worst part of their lives, again on the witness stand for a long, long time, so incredibly brave. And again, he was convicted on all charges. and resentenced to 220 years. But how it impacted a federal judge. The federal judge took those 5 girls out for dinner after the trial. To a great restaurant, really fancy. I was a little shocked. They ordered spicy margaritas. I see them this tall, right? But after dinner, this judge gave each girl her cell phone number and her home address and said, if you're ever in LA, you come and stay with me. I mean, their impact. The next day, we're sitting with those 5 girls, Bridget and I are, and one of them says, we need to pray for Michael Pepe, the man that had abused them so horribly. And those 5 girls got in a circle, holding hands, and prayed for this guy's salvation. That's a forgiveness I really don't understand, right?
Yep, that's beautiful. And as we conclude here, I think people get a little overwhelmed around the human trafficking topic and feel like there's not a lot they can do.
Yeah.
But I know you guys see it a little bit differently. So for business owners here, churches, people in education, I mean, what are some of the ways that we can all be a part of the solution here?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's lots of ways actually in our website, aimfree.org/QIdeas. We'll give a lot of choices, but I want to just share one that actually you need no training. You need no expertise. And in your own home, in your own community, you can have an global impact. That's fighting porn. Porn drives sex trafficking. In the church, over 50% of men in the church use porn. Over 50% of pastors use porn. And it's easy for me to sit up here, right? And I won't see you guys again, so it takes no courage. But for us men especially, to sit with our friends and talk about the impact of porn, not only on ourselves and on our families, but the fact when we click on it, the result is children around the world are being abused. Women are being trafficked because of our use of porn. So if we can, within our own friendships, within our own homes, and actually if the church would address this, right? If a senior pastor would stand up on a weekend service, if they'd have the courage to do that, globally there would be an amazing impact.
You're right, that's such a great practical thing that everybody can do, every church can do, every group of friends can do. Well, thank you for your faithful service. Thank you for the way you've dedicated your life to this work and continue to. I know you and your wife have been so deeply committed to this transformation, and so it's wonderful to get to share the story. So we thank you. Let's thank Don Brewster. Thank you, Don.